my name is Jessica Matthews. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Uncharted Play, and we are a kinetic energy company. Our mission is pretty simple: to power the Internet of Things sustainably. But that's not where we started. We've been in business for over 4 years, and we actually started out as an impact social enterprise that developed energy-generating play products and sports products for the developing world, particularly communities where people, like the 2 billion people around the world who live without reliable access to electricity, where they wonder how they will continue on with their days when the sun goes down. Places where you have to use different things like diesel generators and kerosene lamps, burning fossil fuels to get light and basic needs, and of course, threatening the environment and your own personal well-being. And so, essentially, the idea behind Uncharted Play when we first started was to create a product that would both provide power and empower these individuals. When you think about technology, it's not just the pure, tangible function, it's also the intangible experience. How do you as an individual feel better and almost really feel happier, as you use the product, because that's going to make you want to continue to use it and really make it a meaningful part of your life. And so we looked at these communities and noticed that while they are facing these very dire energy issues, there's also this beautiful experience, this very human, positive experience around soccer and play. And particularly in soccer, the most popular sport around the world, this is something that we noticed where all of the kind of hopelessness and sadness and disenchantment would kind of fade away. That people would be really passionate and excited and energized on the pitch when they were playing soccer, regardless of whether or not they had a real soccer ball or whether or not they even had shoes on, their excitement was there. And so as a trained psychologist, or rather someone who studied psychology economics, kind of tinkered my way into mechanical engineering, I thought, well, doesn't it make sense to kind of combine those two? What are the synergistic effects from taking something that people already love, and things that people already do without being asked, and really looking at how we can amplify existing behavior to create a positive change. And so, in terms of just creating something that made sense, to me anyway, that's where we first came up with the Socket, our first product. The Socket is a soccer ball that harnesses the kinetic energy that's generated during play, stores it inside of the product, so you can use it to provide clean, renewable power off-grid. Let's check it out here. It's only about an ounce heavier than a normal soccer ball, which is really hard because it started out much heavier during the prototyping stages. And it ended up being something much bigger than we ever thought. We got presidents to play with it. We've actually distributed over 50,000 units of this current ball over the last 12 months to places all around the world, bringing power and light and play and happiness to over 250,000 people. And at the same time, we started to develop more products and really figure out our expertise. Because I'm mic'd up, I won't jump, but for those of you who are lucky enough to be here earlier, you saw me jump rope in heels, and I will do it later, if anyone doesn't believe I can, because I can. But even jump ropes, fun jump ropes, all the tricks and things you can do, making sure that the product's still functional and still has the original purpose, but then just from the turning of this rope can generate enough power to power a lamp, or 2 lamps. Right, we got 2 handles, why not? And so, looking at what we had done, what he had built, I started to really think about where else in the world, what could we do? What was possible? We were fortunate enough to create products that were really meaningful, that are efficient, and really take the time to develop something, though, that was probably going to be useful for more than just the developing world. So I started to experience something that I like to call the shrinking game. where we started out with these huge mechanisms, 3-pound soccer balls, and started to work and work and work over the next 4 years to shrink it down, shrink it down, shrink it down, think about different form factors, make sure the ball is bouncy and light and playful, until we got to the point where we could get it really small. We could get it even more efficient. We could really think about the nuances of the functionality of the product and not just make it an energy harvesting system, but really a soccer ball that happens to harness energy. A jump rope that happens to harness energy. A longboard that happens to harness energy. A wheelchair that happens to harness energy. And so in summary, I kind of came to I had a come to Jesus moment where I realized we're really good at two things. We're really good at putting energy harvesting systems into small, weird places without disrupting the functionality. And we're really good at introducing technology in a manner that's both meaningful and palatable to the masses. And what I mean by that is, you know, there are many people who wouldn't necessarily understand kinetic energy until we give them a socket. Because they understand soccer, because they love soccer, because this is something that's going to matter to them much more than just cranking something. We really understand how to connect those two things. So as I started to look more broadly into where we could expand to, I started to look at the energy problems facing the IoT. One of the main things that's holding back the IoT is battery life. So funny enough, the energy problems that we've been working to combat and deal with abroad started to come home. Quite frankly, no one wants to be tethered to a wall. And so how can we really expect the IoT to be accepted in any kind of wide-scale way if what we're going to have to do each day is charge our Internet of Things product? We actually ran a poll in New York City asking people, you know, what do you think is holding back the Internet of Things? And of course we actually had to explain to them what the Internet of Things is. And they cited battery life. You know, oh, well, it sounds like the Apple Watch is going to be difficult for this reason. And I liked my Fitbit until I forgot to wear it one day because I had to charge it, and then it just ruined everything and I stopped using it. And so we said, well, quite frankly, you shouldn't have to think about charging. We will be doing our jobs right if the way people think about their Internet of Things products is the way they think about their current beloved products, and they're not worried about whether or not it's charged or not charged. And just the general motion, the most minute vibrations are keeping that battery going so you can actually live a more connected life. And so we decided, you know what, let's pull all this together and jump all the way in. Our technology, specifically where we think that we have our expertise, is something called MORE. It is our proprietary technology, motion-based, off-grid renewable energy, and is essentially a customizable, self-sustaining system that will power, hopefully, the IoT. Anything that's moving, we hope will be powered by MORE. We have 7 patents and patents pending that we've been developing around this, related to 4 specific harvesting methods. And it's actually really exciting. We've been working on things like, smart shopping carts have been really fun to look at how do you make sure that they're both meaningful in terms of what data people are getting from it, as well as useful and easy to use regarding how it's powered, to basketballs, to wearables. We're really looking at how small things can get, and we have a really exciting opportunity to take the expertise we've been building in developing these systems for the developing world and scaling them down and bringing them to the United States and to the developed markets and saying, you should be willing and wanting of more from your products. And I think this is really fitting for the IoT across the board, because the whole idea is that we want to get more data, that we want to know more, that we want to be connected, that we want to be better educated. So why not ask for more in terms of how we power it? Why not be willing to get more in general? So please be watching the space. We're going to be releasing some of our projects in the next few months, the different partners that we're working with. And if you have a IoT product and are thinking about how it will be powered, let's chat. Thank you.
I'm speechless, and I'm not normally speechless. That was awesome. Who wants to go first? I don't want to follow that. Fire away, Colin.
You mentioned you distributed 50,000, but I could see in the US, there's quite a bit of places where you could also distribute. Are most of your distribution overseas, or are they here in the United States?
Currently, most of our distributions are overseas. While we do actually do work in the United States as well, though, we have a Think Out of Bounds curriculum that teaches kids how to invent with limited resources. And so we partner all of our distributions with that and happen to work in schools here in the US. Right now, mostly in the Northeast, because it's just easy access, so we do a lot of programs. But most of our distributions have been in places where the power need is real, but we're location agnostic. We just want balls everywhere, so it's easy.
Up here, one more.
A lot of what you discussed was kinetic energy and moving devices, but on the last slide there was, at the very bottom right corner, you said there was thermal.
Yeah.
Obviously, a lot of IoT devices, particularly in smart grid or stationary devices, and I'm from Texas, so we have plenty of thermal.
Yeah.
Can you talk to us a little bit about the status of that work?
Sure. So what we're looking at there is actually building a competitive edge or niche in what would still be kind of motion-powered thermal. So in layman's terms, I would say rubbing. And heat transfer is what we're looking at. So we're not necessarily looking at the stationary devices. I think that, quite frankly, from a use case, it's not awesome that they're tethered to the wall. I am about renewable power, but it's not impossible. I think the problem we have is when you want to take your Internet of Things world outside of your home. When you want to, and so we really want to make sure that we don't try to be a jack of all trades. We want to understand where the opportunities are regarding power generation and be able to really provide something very unique and not only technologically ahead of the time, but cost efficient as well. There are a lot of things that can be done that are very expensive, and we pride ourselves on being able to come in and say, we can do that chip for 50% of the cost just because we had to make it for Zimbabwe. so it works out.
We have two questions. A question in the back, if we can start there, that'd be great.
Hi, Ms. Matthews.
Hey.
What's going on?
Chilling.
What's been your challenge? When you look at the socket, for instance, it may just be a soccer ball, but there is something much more there. It's kind of enchanting. I guess in getting going to retail and in distributing socket and pulse, what have been those challenges?
Supply chain. Supply chain's a bitch. Anyone who knows it just knows it. Making things is hard, and so I invented the socket when I was 19. I'm 27 now. The company I started when I was 22. So there were 4 years of just like, I don't know what's going on, and then there were 4 years of I really don't know what's going on, but I have to be responsible for a team. And ultimately, I found that finding reliable partners and getting people internationally to innovate with you is actually very difficult. It's beyond the language barrier. There's just different cultural nuances to innovation that you have to break through. And I think the most exciting thing, though, that ended up happening is that because we've always been, first and foremost, an impact company, people kind of let us do our thing. Not realizing, or at least not really paying attention to the fact that we were building real technology, that we were making real strides in tech. No one really bugged us. And so it's actually exciting because this is the first time actually ever that I've ever done this presentation or told anyone. You guys are the first group of people to know this. So we're really excited to keep growing and doing this and taking our pitfalls and our experiences and using them to guide people around how you build a supply chain for sustainably powering your smart systems.
Thank you. Last question, if I could, is this. You say impact. It'd be great if you could define for the room, just for those who may not know, about the impact business model, impact financing, impact investing. If you could just explain that a little bit, and then tell us about the upside and downside of being in an impact business, raising capital.
It's like a new talk. It's like another talk. Okay.
Just frame it for us.
No, I'd love it. Sure. So we started out, wanting to building technology for communities that didn't always have a lot of resources. And so the way that you need to think about financing for that, at least the way I think that we've been successful and been able to keep growing, So make sure you have a dynamic business model where you pull in different stakeholders and you make it more of a group dance, is like what I like to say. So for example, when we first started developing the product, rather than go to the consumer and say, oh, buy this ball that we're just developing that we haven't figured out how to lower the cost on yet, or et cetera, we went to corporate sponsors and said, put your logo on this ball while we figure all this stuff out so we can give it to the consumer for free or little to no cost and keep this whole thing going. The marketing piece is in place. It's ready to go. We don't need to prototype that. So that is a kind of tangential business model that will fund this while we keep going. As we start to build up, we now do not only corporate sponsorships, but we work with governments, which can take a long time, so cash management is really important when you're thinking about governmental work, but then you get huge impact in terms of a country like Nigeria, for example, buying X number of thousands of units to be distributed to their students in a particular region. And then another model that we also look to is sort of a buy one, give one, where people can buy the product here on our website. You can actually buy it right now if you go to u-play.co. And one child overseas is given access to our energy generating play systems and our Think Out of Bounds curriculum that I mentioned earlier. But I think overarching, the most important thing for me that has kind of let me and have so much passion in the way that we've been moving forward is that while I say we were an impact business because we had a very specific social mission and we were working with a resource-poor community or resource-poor part of the world, I still think that we're an impact company. I want to live in a world that's sustainably powered. I think that that's the future, to have a sustainable world. And if the IoT is the next coming of the internet, if it's going to be the next power need, I'd love to be able to power that sustainably. And so it's really exciting to see how, whether we're talking about the developing world or the developed world, how ultimately we're still just one world that needs something, and we'll hopefully get it in the right sustainable way.
I'm in. Thank you so much.
Thank you.